Hey guys, welcome to the Tower of Babble. This is episode 26. So I'm joined with Dan,
Hey.
as usual, my co-host, or one of them. Our other one seems to be MIA the last while. In fact, we have barely seen him in the past month. So when he gets back, I'm sure he'll have lots to tell us about everything he's been doing. In the meantime, we have 2 weeks worth of content to cover, which means that we already failed at our mission of staying consistent. Only 2 weeks in. But that's okay because I put together a very elaborate, long list of stuff to talk about. So we're gonna rush through. No, we're not gonna rush through it. We're gonna talk about everything, some more than others, because we don't care about everything as much as some other things, right?
Yeah.
For instance, Star Wars we care about. Titanfall we don't very much care about. I know lots of people are really excited about the Titanfall beta that just started. I don't have an Xbox One, so that's another reason for that. But also, never really been a big Xbox person, or the fact that it's made by the same people who made Call of Duty, and I've never. Well, that's not true. I did used to like Call of Duty, but I'm going on a tangent here.
Yeah, right off the bat.
Let's get right back on, and let's start with Star Wars. So. Actually, before we do that, let me just make sure to mention to go check out our website, towerbabblepodcast.com. We have all our episodes up there, plus some blog content that me and you and some other people will write every once in a while. We have our Twitter page, obviously, at towerbabblecast, yeah, and we're on Facebook as well. So make sure to check us out there. So, Star Wars. There's a whole bunch of stuff. So I'll get the episode 7 stuff out of the way first. So Gary Oldman, obviously from Dark Knight fame, has been approached for a role in episode 7. His quote was, "They called."
Wait, what? They called?
They called, yeah, when he was asked about it. Which is not saying much. It's the definition of not saying much. But the fact that he's been approached is, that's a good thing. Gary Oldman's a very good actor, so if he's involved as a Jedi, I think I can actually very easily see him as a Jedi. Couldn't you?
Yeah. He plays a good villain too, though, in a lot of things.
That's true.
But either way, yeah, he's a great actor, and it's great to have him.
Maybe would you think he'd be good as like an Imperial officer?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
He's definitely he's an older character, so he's a veteran of the Empire War, right? Mm-hmm. Either way. Yeah. Either a surviving Jedi or a member of the Empire who...
Is that what it's called, by the way? Is the Empire War or the...
I just said that. I don't know if that's what it's called.
I don't think that's what it's called. But but people know, when, the whole rebellion. I think it's called the Rebellion.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Also, the Millennium Falcon was spotted in an image that was posted by the Star Wars, I think, Instagram, that had the director... I'm blanking on his name. J.J. Abrams. And some of the other bigwigs from the Star Wars, the films. So either that's just a whole bunch. It has an image, I think, of old Obi-Wan and a couple other things on there. So it could be just a collage of images from Star Wars, or could hint the fact that the Millennium Falcon will be in Episode 7. Which, by the way, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, it kind of makes sense, right? It's not like it blew up or anything.
Well, no, but it's just never been. It's not in good shape. If it's another 20 years later, it's probably not doing very well.
Well, that's good. It's like a running joke, and they just keep fixing it up.
All right. Well, it's called the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Episode 7 might start filming in May, and the rumor is that Lando will be back, played by the original actor who played him. I can't remember his name. Who also voiced Lando in the Lego Movie, which I watched yesterday. So we'll talk about that later. But everyone loves some Lando Calrissian, I only want Lando back if we can get remote control head back first as well. So, okay. So here's the good stuff. Here's the juicy stuff. At least as far as I'm concerned, that stuff is all just rumor. Who knows? But Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I've talked about it on the show a million times. How much I love that show. How great how much it fixed for the prequels. A lot of story issues and a whole bunch of stuff. But when Star Wars was bought by Disney, the last season was put on hiatus. And we weren't sure if it was going to come out. And then they said, yeah, it will come out. We weren't sure how. And then blah, blah, blah. But now news this week came that it's going to be released. The full season called The Lost Missions will be released on Netflix starting on March 7th, which is right away. which is, but
along with
yeah,
the first 5 seasons as well, right?
yeah, exactly. So the whole run, including the feature film that started it off, and not only that, but some of the episodes will be director's cut episodes, which are episodes that didn't air on television. So it's pretty much,
Sweet.
if you have been waiting to get on and watch this stuff, might as well wait the next couple weeks and just start on March 7th and just go through the whole series, because honestly, it just builds and builds and builds and gets better and better and better every single season. Not that it starts off badly, but it's like it starts off well, but it just gets even better as the series continues. Weird thing about Clone Wars for me is that you really get attached to a lot of the clones, like the actual troopers in the show, and a lot of them have like their own personalities. Like Cody's in it, obviously. We've met him in the movies.
Episode 3,
yeah. But there's others as well. Rex, who we meet, he's got like the dual wielding pistols. He's pretty badass. He's Anakin's like commander, but who we obviously don't see in any of the movies. But anyway, these next final episodes are supposed to tackle some of the Order 66 stuff. Going into the last season before this one was put on hiatus, they were already kind of seeding the idea of soldiers who blindly follow orders, and ones who have more of a mind of their own and that kind of thing. So going into this one, I'm really excited to see how they tackle that with some of these characters that we know you have gotten very, very attached to over the course of the series, and how they deal with Order 66. We know how Cody deals with it, but we don't know how Rex or some of the others do. So that's what I'm really excited to see. And I just want to rewatch the whole thing.
A lot of loose ends to tie up.
Yeah, there's a few loose ends. I mean, Ahsoka that whole stuff was mostly tied up at the end of season 4, but this next one, or end of season 5, this next one will be. Is it the 5th or the 6th season that they're gonna? I think it's the 5th. It's 4 seasons and then a 5th one on Netflix. But, so 13 episodes coming to Netflix starting on March 7th, including the entire run as well as the feature film that started it off. Go watch it. And then moving on from old Disney animation, well, old is in the sense of a couple years ago, to new Disney animation with Star Wars Rebels, I guess the spiritual successor. It's not a direct sequel to Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Has been releasing a whole deluge of information over the last 2 weeks. So we've gotten videos on some of the main characters. I think we started with, last week we talked about Chopper, the astromech. Who's like the grumpy old astromech who's kind of like falling apart but still gets the job done. So here's the synopsis I quickly wrote for them. So introduction of videos for Kanan, a disillusioned Jedi who is living in secret. Ezra, a pickpocket who lives in poverty and has fledgling force powers undetected by the Empire. Chopper, a grumpy astromech, and Zeb, a new species to Star Wars, which is actually a pretty big deal, who is based off an early concept art of Chewbacca. Zeb is a warrior brute type character who has honor and intelligence, is highly regarded on his home planet. So all these characters are going to be part of okay, let me start from the beginning. This whole series covers the beginning of the rebellion, and how that all the orange jumpsuits that they like to refer to all the time, like who are these orange jumpsuits that are running around in the background of all these movies. So I think it leads into A New Hope, obviously, because it's set a couple of years before that. And these characters, I think, are believed to be the ones who start up the rebellion, and will follow their story. It's set on a new planet. We talked about that last episode. And these new characters will be a part of that. So I'm really excited. I think the way they built up these characters is pretty cool. I really like the Ezra and Kanan characters. Kanan being like the old Jedi, kind of survived Order 66. He's not old in the sense of being old, but just the fact that he's still around is, I guess, considered an old Jedi. You know,
well, one of the last Jedi, yeah.
He kind of has put away his lightsaber. He uses a blaster a lot of the time. Obviously for lots of practical reasons. Like if you use a lightsaber, you're going to attract a lot of attention. Yeah. We know that Darth Vader went around during the time between Episode 3 and Episode 4, kind of picking off the final Jedi that remained. Maybe part of the series will be seeing him being hunted by Darth Vader. That would be an interesting story, I think.
Well, you have to assume they'll put Vader in it in some capacity.
Yeah, I'm sure he will be. I want to know if they'll have James Earl Jones voice him. They've done some really great voice work. Disney Animation has, or this team that obviously wasn't Disney Animation before, but they've done some great voice work in the past, and they've for the Zeb character, they got a voice acting veteran. He's voiced Wolverine. He's voiced a whole bunch of things on television and video games. So he's a really great voice actor, and they've done really great jobs with like the clones in the last in the Clone Wars. Like the guy who voiced all the clones, he was like amazing. The fact that you can give them each different personalities while using this exact same voice is like alone just hard is difficult on its own. So we'll see how they do it, but I think you can probably get a pretty close facsimile to James Earl Jones' Darth Vader.
I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that can handle that, yeah.
But that would be cool if you could get that, especially if you're setting this as like the fledgling rebels, they're probably not going to be dealing with like the Emperor and his like right hand on a regular basis, you know. So,
I think they said I'm pretty sure Tarkin's going to be in it a lot though.
Yes, because he'll probably be responsible for like destroying any pieces of rebellion. Tarkin, of course, was in Clone Wars for a couple episodes. He had a 2-part or 3-part episode that was pretty cool, showing kind of like the beginning of Anakin's and Tarkin's like kind of headbutting relationship that they have. I want to know when he gets promoted to Grand Moff, if that will be shown. Also, what a Grand Moff is.
Yeah, they can probably address that too.
Like maybe it's short for something, you know, like Grand, or maybe it's like an acronym, like Mother of
Master, probably
Master of
Not
Functions. Anyway, this whole idea of this new series is very exciting to me. I'm really very, very excited. Like I can't speak enough to how excited I am about it.
It looks good. I'm always apprehensive when things look too cartoony, but I'll still I'll watch it.
Well, here's the thing: the beginning of Clone Wars kind of had that cartoony feel, but as it like I've shown you episodes of Clone Wars before,
I've seen
they don't shy away from like they've done decapitations in Clone Wars. They've like clones die left and right. Like they're not afraid of to show those kinds of things. So just because it has like a lighter like visual look to it doesn't mean they're gonna shy away from telling like mature stories, which I would be very surprised if they didn't, because that's something that's important to them, is telling the story regardless of keeping it safe for kids. I mean, obviously, like it's still for kids in some way, but Star Wars has always been for kids, so that never really bothered me. The animation's actually very good, and you should definitely don't let that stop you at all. So it's set to air on Disney Channel with a 1-hour special, and then premiere weekly on Disney XD, the less popular Disney Channel, more aimed towards boys, every week with half-hour episodes, starting in the fall, like I said. Anything you want to say about Star Wars before we move on to other stuff?
No, I'm pretty good with that.
Okay. All right, so the CW, they've got 2 things, maybe 3 things going on, but there's news for The Flash and Arrow. So The Flash has cast Candace Patton as Iris West, obviously. Barry
Love
Allen's
interest.
Yeah, so girlfriend. They got married in the comics. So that one's an obvious one. You need a love interest most of the time for most shows, especially on the CW. They've also cast Carlos Valdez as Cisco Roman, a mechanical engineering genius. This is, quote, a mechanical engineering genius, and the youngest member of a team of scientists at Star Labs. In the comics, that character later becomes Vibe. So he, at, I guess, about halfway into the launch of New 52, he got his own comic book called Justice League of America's Vibe. And he's fairly... I don't know if he's from the old stuff. I'm not familiar if he is. But anyways, for sure in the New 52, kind of a new character that they put new focus on. So we know for sure now, I guess, that the Flash will have superpowers, and then if they go with this and have him, which I'd be surprised if they wouldn't by putting him in here, that he will kind of team up with the Flash.
Okay, yeah.
So the Vibe kind of like uses like sound waves as his powers. they've all okay. So there's also another casting. Some of the old, like the guy who played the Flash in the '90s Flash like television show, is also gonna have like a special guest appearance on the show, as well as someone else. But I can't remember who offhand right now. But anyway, so they're in the middle. They're very busy casting. We're going to talk about another show in a little bit that's also super busy casting. So as far as DC anime or DC television, we're on the absolute right path here.
June, you're doing the robot thing again.
Oh,
really? You're like cutting in and out and shit.
Okay, hold on. Let me just stop recording, and then I'll jump right back in. I'll just stop and then restart, and it'll probably sound okay. All right, and we're back. What was I? I was in the middle of talking about the CW stuff, right? So the next thing, and then this is I feel like this is a little tough for you because you haven't watched any of Arrow, so it's a little disconnected for you. Like, you're not as excited for the Flash because you haven't watched Arrow.
I'm still excited for the Flash. I'm still excited. I'm eventually going to get to these shows, so it's exciting that it's there for me. I'm excited to have TV shows to look forward to, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, for you get to look forward to the fact that they already have two like first season for sure, and then now the second season that's going very strongly, which has a spin-out series coming out of it. So you have a lot of content to look forward to. That is like, at least from what I've been telling you, is doing a very good job of it. So I'm almost jealous of you. At the same time, it goes on at the beginning, so I've been enjoying it this whole time, so I can't really be jealous. I'm just jealous of the fact that you get to experience it for the first time. You know?
Yeah.
So Arrow, last episode, I guess, was 2 weeks ago. We talked about this, was Katrina Law from Spartacus, one of my favorites. Anyway, so she was she played the role of Nisa. She's the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, one of them anyway, who came to Starling City because to get the Canary, who is Laurel Lansing's sister. It's very confusing. To get her back because she trained with the League of Assassins, and they apparently had a thing, I guess, like a relationship. So she was a scorned lover, and then came back. It was either the story. It kind of sounds silly, but the way it was executed was like badass, and like how like Nisa was like able to like use a bow, and like the bow battle that they had, like arrow battle they had, archer battle, I guess. Was. I think you're right with bow battle. It's just no, I don't know if that one sounds good. So anyway, archer battle was pretty cool. There's like a particular scene where she dodges an arrow, she like sees it being shot at her, and she dodges it by falling backwards, like jumping backwards onto a table, and at the same time like grabbing her bow from behind her, and then jumping off the table and like shooting another one like right away. And that was pretty. But like the whole. I've been talking about this for a while, but Arrow's doing very well, and to prove that Arrow's doing so well, they've been renewed for a third season.
Nice.
Which is, again, no surprise to anyone, because they've been getting, I think, the second highest ratings on the network. I think just behind Spartacus, which is in its like 11th or 10th season, which has been getting better ratings than it has like for its entire series run. Which I don't even understand how that's possible, but. So do you know what the CW's longest running show is?
What's that?
Seventh Heaven. Well, not like currently, but like it had 11 seasons.
Okay.
And then behind that is Smallville, which had 10 seasons, I think, 9 or 10 seasons. So Supernatural's going into its 10th season, so it's almost surpassed Seventh Heaven for the longest running CW show. Which is kind of funny. I never really watched any of Seventh Heaven, but that's a little bit before my time. Anyway.
I didn't really catch that
one. Also, not really in our wheelhouse. If there's any Seventh Heaven news that people want us to cover, just let us know, and we'll maybe we'll go back and watch all 11 seasons of Seventh Heaven and do in-depth reviews of each episode. I can actually promise that won't happen.
Yeah, don't make promises.
Let's move on to Marvel and DC. There's a little bit more exciting stuff here. So Marvel, I'll start with the biggest one. Paul Bettany, from Master and Commander, Knight's Tale, who also voices Jarvis for Iron Man and Avengers, has been cast as the Vision for Avengers 2. What do you have to
okay,
do with that one?
I'm pretty excited about it. It seems like obviously they're focusing more on Tony Stark than anything else, so it's gonna spin out of the Jarvis thing, right?
You'd assume so, right?
Yeah.
Because he has a
So
pretty intelligent AI with Jarvis already, right?
exactly. So this will be a self-aware AI in a construct that spins out of the Jarvis thing that'll be
Is
created by Tony Stark.
Jarvis is self-aware? He knows he's not a real human, right?
I guess he is self-aware too.
To a certain
So
extent,
this
but like he's just not malevolent or yeah, that's the right word, right?
yeah, he's benevolent,
Yeah.
but so is the Vision too. At
But
first,
he's evil at first, and then becomes
yeah.
good later on. So I was reading some of the stuff about the Vision. So in Captain America, the first movie, there's a scene with a Stark Expo from like way back, and there's a stand with an android body. It's all red, and it's like super like intricate like tie-ins here. So this red android body is called the original Human Torch, the original Torch or something like that.
There's one that's called the Human Torch, and one's called the Human Flame, or something like that.
Anyway, so it's the torch that was the torch before the Human Torch in Fantastic Four was even invented. Anyway, so this android worked with Captain America in certain adventures or whatever in the comics, and then later on was adapted, and that body was quote unquote used to create the Vision by Ultron. So I'm not sure if that's the way they're going to go. I'd be surprised if that's because they've already set it up, or maybe that was just like a little a nod to certain fans of that character. I don't know how many of those are left, but either way, I'm excited to see the Vision. I'm excited to see. I say this a lot. Excited. I'm going to start using different adjectives.
You don't have another one.
I don't. I am.
No, it's cool. It's obviously very connected with the Ultron story. So he's gonna be using Tony Stark's technology against him at first.
Are you worried that this movie's getting a little busy? Like they've already said that
It's kind of busy, but
Not Wonder Woman. Excuse me. Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow is going to get a bit larger role. Hawkeye's going to have more to do. You have Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch involved. You have Baron von Strucker. Yeah, you've obviously got all the whole main team with Thor and Hulk and Iron Man and Captain America and and then you have the Samuel Jackson Director Fury stuff plus the Winter Soldier thing. I don't know, from the other thing, so this I'm getting ahead of myself, but Cap 2 leads directly into Avengers 2. I'm interested to see where the whole Winter Soldier thing is left off at the end. Because if that means if he becomes the Winter, does he maybe go off alone again to think about what he's done? A self exile.
Yeah, he may not be at all involved in Avengers. He may be very highly involved in Avengers.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm worried that maybe there's too much going on, but at the same time, Joss Whedon did such an excellent job of kind of balancing all that stuff in the last Avengers movie that I'm not particularly worried. If it was another director, I might be more worried.
But I mean, that being said, there's the same amount as the last movie, and then it's doubled essentially.
Yeah,
that's a fucking lot.
So maybe certain characters get a reduced role. Maybe Thor isn't as involved in this one. I mean, he's on Earth though. That's the weird thing. So it's at the end of Thor 2, he's back on Earth and staying there. So if he's not as involved, then what's he doing this whole time?
Yeah, or
he's just hanging out. He's making breakfast for Jane Foster.
Well, I mean, maybe Captain America's not as involved because you said he's coming to the end of his contract, so he has a couple movies left. Maybe they're saving him for a different one.
Well, but he'll be in it. So it's not like if he's in it, that's one movie out of his contract anyway. So
I guess
put him in, you might as well use him. And he's such a we talked about this last time, how he's the heart of those movies. Very he really embodies Captain
what America it is to be a hero.
Yeah, and the rest of the cast fit in their roles properly. But Captain America is so important, I think, to an Avengers movie that even more so, I think, than having Downey's Iron Man. I mean, he's the most popular one.
He's integral to this one for sure.
But I think for future movies, I think you're going to see the cast of the Avengers change a lot over time. as like it did in the comics. I mean, but I think Captain America's pretty key to that, unless they kill him off like they did again in the comics. But then you have the whole Bucky Barnes thing as the side to bring that in, a new Captain America, blah blah blah. We don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. Like, literally, if they did those stories, it would not be for like another 6 years that we would see those things paying off. But we could see them paying off, you know?
Yeah. Well, the other big question mark is Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Like, how big a role are they going to have in, like, it's just, like, because they can't do the whole mutant thing, right? So it's going to be, how do they become part of the Avengers? Like, there's going to need to be time spent on that. So,
yeah,
they can't have a small part, but they are kind of, from what we understand so far, not the most important characters to the story.
Because it's called Age of Ultron. It's not called Age of Quicksilver, you know? So
great one.
Well, look,
you go with it on your feet there.
Well, whatever. The point is, like, what role are they going to play? Like, what are Wanda's powers going to be in this?
Yeah,
like,
that's going to be weird too. But like, yeah, what do they add? What do they?
Yeah, I don't know. In fact, I'm almost when they were announced that they were going to be in the film, I was already like kind of like skeptical about that whole thing before we even knew about Ultron, before we even knew about Vision, before we even knew about like Baron von Strucker, before we even knew about all that stuff. We knew about Wanda and Pietro. Mm-hmm. So how they fit in is still, I guess, a mystery until we see a trailer or some sort of something. I mean, it's not supposed to. I think it started filming this last week. The full cast hasn't started yet, but they've started filming on the last important stuff in, I think, South Africa. So, which again we talked about with if they're using South Africa, maybe there's a whole Black Panther tease in there.
See, yeah, that's way like already too much.
Well, no, maybe you don't involve it, but like maybe that's just like the post.
Another I can mention.
Yeah. Which, okay, so like we're talking about how Cap 2 leads directly into Avengers 2, also going to be affecting Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., obviously. I think that one makes sense, even more so than Thor 2, which didn't really do anything. They had one episode, it was kind of lame. So we'd assume that one change had more of an effect on the show. But so if that's the case, so Avengers 2 if the order is Thor 2, Cap 2, Avengers 2, in between, like in the timeline, in between there and when the movies come out, is Guardians of the Galaxy. So where in the timeline does that fit? Does it tie in directly to anything that's going on at all? Is it completely an offshoot? I mean, it is going on in space, so I mean,
yeah, it's in a very different place. And it probably ties in more to like the third Avengers than anything else, right? Mm-hmm. It's more like the long game, and then this is all happening in between, and then because there's still the galactic threat out there, and that's what this one's going to deal with, just to make sure people remember that shit.
Sure, but like, are regular audiences going to understand that? They're going to be like, well, we saw Captain America 2, and then this happened, and then we got this other movie, it's right in the middle, and the other stuff is going on, and now we're going to have Avengers 2, and it has nothing to do with anything I just saw in the last movie? Or, like, you know, like...
That's hard to say. It is obviously people, very complicated, having this many storylines. It literally
gets more... As they add more movies and more, like, mediums, it gets... extremely complicated. Like to be the guy looking at like the spider web of like interconnected story pieces, you'd be like, you'd probably need like a PhD in comics isms, like like, you know what I mean though? Like, how would you even maintain, like, because then you have the movies, which are, you know, if you were just doing the movies, it would be fine, right? You'd be able to do that. But then you also have the show, which is hugely significant, making huge, but like you have characters being introduced on there that are not, some are not minor characters. Like there's a villain that was like given an origin that is not a minor character at all. Like, do you remember the first episode of Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes? Mm-hmm. And they had like that big escape from all like the different prisons.
Yeah.
And then there's that one villain that escaped from that underwater prison that was like controlled like the gravity.
Yeah, Gravitron.
Yeah, Gravitron. So that guy is
he's a physicist on Earth, right?
Yeah. So that guy was introduced in the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and his origins were like kind of like, you thought he was killed, but he was sucked into this thing, and then they kind of tease that he isn't dead. Mm-hmm. So we know that he becomes Gravitron, who is not a minor villain. I mean, he's not well known, but he's not like, he's extremely powerful, you know? Mm-hmm. So you have these like small pieces that are fitting into a larger pie, if you like, I don't know why pie. I don't know why I used the word pie, into a larger like tapestry.
Probably cake.
Tapestry. I like tapestry. I like tapestry. So it's like these small threads that are tying into this one large image, but then you have like the Netflix stuff that's coming right away, right? So that's another whole offshoot, which.
But they haven't confirmed that that's going to be connected. We're just assuming that.
I think that who was I reading? Okay. Oh yeah, so I was reading. It was later on. So the guy who directed the Marvel one shot for the Ben Kingsley one that's coming out on the Thor DVD, which I think just came out. He pitched a whole bunch of ideas for Marvel one shots. One of them being damage control, which is a great idea. I'll talk about that in a second. But we were talking about. He mentioned when talking about that he wanted to do a Jessica Jones one as well. He was a really big fan of Jessica Jones, but he was like, well, the she's already being tackled in the Netflix side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'll take that as like not an official confirmation, but I think it'd be dumb. Well, I think considering everything they've done, and we've talked about this before, everything they've done to connect everything else, why would you create this offshoot that wouldn't connect, especially with a character like Daredevil? You know?
And this one doesn't really complicate things so much as like the Guardians of the Galaxy does. You know, this is just a bunch of superheroes that people are familiar with the concept of a superhero in New York City. You know, that's not hard to buy anymore.
Yeah, especially because there's a giant tower that says Stark on it that you know, and aliens fell out of the sky. You know, like that's. I hope they also deal with that, the fact that there's superheroes in New York and there's all that whole thing. Like, if you live in the Marvel universe, don't live in New York, don't live in Los Angeles, and don't live in like
San Francisco.
Don't live in those places. They're just bad things happen on a regular basis, like weekly. You'd be dealing with like trying to get to work. Like like the whole street would be destroyed. You'd have no way to get to work. Like you might get sucked into some sort of alternate dimension. There might be a giant earthquake or flood or something. I mean, sure, you have superheroes to help save you, but like, you know, lots of people die. So
that's exciting.
I guess. Anyway, I'll talk about that other Marvel one shot. So one of the ideas for Marvel one shot that director pitched, I can't remember his name, was Damage Control. So Damage Control is a comic that was short lived, but a really great idea. I think that I hope they do a one shot with. So the idea is that Damage Control team are the people responsible for cleaning up after all the battles that superheroes and supervillains have. I think you could do a really funny Marvel one shot with that like group of people like that.
Absolutely.
So I mean, obviously, you kind of have. I think you have the kind of the Shield is kind of that responsible for that kind of role. I think to some degree they've kind of set that up in this world. So maybe a division of Shield is that, and then they can maybe spin that out of a Shield movie as the one shot on the attached to the Shield movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think we've talked about Guardians. So there's a rumor out. One more thing is that the rumor is that the second movie in Phase 3, which the first one being Ant-Man, coming out after Avengers 2. The rumor is that it could be Guardians 2. I'm not sure what to think about that. I'm still kind of hoping for, and I'm kind of more leaning towards that it'll probably be a Doctor Strange or Black Panther is more likely to me. Of course, that hasn't been rumored. It's just kind of been tossed around as really great ideas.
Yeah. Well, it probably depends also on the success of Guardians coming out.
And I think I'm gonna. If it is Guardians 2, I'm not going to be like, oh, great, I want to see Doctor Strange or Black Panther, which I do, but maybe Guardians is awesome, you know? And
it could be. Did you watch the teaser trailer?
I did watch the teaser trailer. Lots of destruction going on. The full trailer is out tonight on Jimmy Kimmel, so of course, as we're recording today, we won't be able to talk about it until next podcast, but I'm excited for that. I want to see how they deal with Groot and Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah.
Is it you call it a raccoon? Or a raccoon? Or like a raccoon or raccoon? You know?
You're saying the same thing. It's raccoon.
A raccoon?
Raccoon.
A raccoon.
Okay.
The coon. Remember that episode of South Park? Oh, clever. So I think that covered. Oh, one more thing before we move on from Marvel stuff is that amongst all these rumors about who's being cast for what in this reboot for Fantastic Four that nobody wants,
I kind of want it.
You want another Fox reboot of Fantastic Four? That's what you want?
Oh no, not Fox.
Yeah.
No.
So anyway, is that they want to cast like a big name for Doctor Doom, but along
Jesse
with that,
Eisenberg.
along with that rumor, along with that rumor is that they are considering a switch, like a gender switch for Doctor Doom. Like
Okay.
a female Doctor Doom. How do you feel about it? I don't like that idea. And it's not because I'm like against girls having large roles in that, but I think him being like a man is key to his character in many ways, I think. You know what I mean?
I mean, you can spin it the other way though.
You could, but I think it's more difficult. And like Doctor Doom being one of the most dangerous villains in Marvel.
Yeah.
Continuity. Obviously, they're not in the rest of the Marvel stuff. If this movie falls through, and I really hope it does, and Marvel gets back the rights to Fantastic Four, then I'd be willing to see a new Fantastic Four. But I don't want anything to do with this one. It seems to it seems to be being rushed for obvious like legal issue, like legal reasons, and it also seems to be being made on the cheap, which is another thing that's got
bad sign. Yeah,
especially for a Fantastic Four movie. And no, I don't want to see a girl Doctor Doom. He rules a whole like country. I mean, I know that there's
girls do that too.
Yeah, but like it's his whole spite with Reed and the whole thing with like with Sue. All that stuff doesn't work if you make her a girl. You know.
Again, you could just flip it though, like that.
So she's attracted to Reed.
To Reed, and she's she competes with Sue a lot, like intellectually, rather than just physically.
But the thing with
Doctor Doom is all about dominance.
Yeah, but Reed has always been Reed has always been the smartest one of the team, right? So if you have her clashing minds with Sue, then the smartest guy in the room is no longer like you know what I mean? It doesn't quite work. That dynamic doesn't quite work the same. I get what you're saying, like how you could do it, but I don't think it works quite right. And I'm not trying to just say that because like, you know, I'm not like one of those people that says like if a character is black in the comics, like then it has to be black, or if the character is white, it has to be white, or you know what I mean? Like I don't care about that stuff. There's certain characters I think it's key to their role, like for instance with like
Black Panther,
obviously, but like or Jon Stewart. Like I don't think you could make Jon Stewart a white guy, you know. So anyway, there's more on Jon Stewart later, but that's how I feel about the Fantastic Four reboot. I want nothing to do with it. I'm not excited. I didn't like either of the first two Fantastic Four movies that Fox made.
The first one was okay. The second one was terrible.
They were both pretty terrible. Whatever. I mean, like that's maybe I need to go back and rewatch them, but I know for a fact the second one sucked a lot.
Yeah, the second one they screwed a lot up, but the first one wasn't that bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible.
They didn't even do Doctor Doom. I don't think they did him very well, which is how like though he did look cool. He did have the green what do you call it? Like a tunic. But anyway, DC news. So we have so much to cover still. We should just rush. Not rush, but we should probably pick up the pace.
Okay.
Okay, so The Rock, he said that he's making a DC movie for Warner Brothers. That's a fact. But in an Instagram from November, so this is a while ago, he might have teased what project actually he's working on. So in a picture with him, with his trainer that he's worked with for a long, long time, he had a really long message and then a bunch of hashtags at the end, one of them being Jon Stewart can still whoop Superman's ass. All one word, obviously, because it's a hashtag. When asked about it on Twitter, he did a non-denial thing, saying like, whatever, I think all I said was Green Lantern could kick Superman's ass. But anyway, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of odd. Like, why would you write that unless you were, like, for just no reason? Unless she was, The Rock doesn't appear to me to be like a really big Jon Stewart DC Comics fan, you know? So
well, you never know, but
maybe he is, but that would be surprising to me, don't you think? Like, wouldn't you be like, wow, okay, who knew?
No, he seems like he's into that kind of stuff. I'm sure he I don't know if he reads the comics, but I'm sure he's into it on some level.
Still,
John Stewart could not whoop Superman's ass though.
no, he couldn't. I don't agree with what he said, but could you see The Rock as Jon Stewart? Because right now I guess I can, but I think he needs to lose a little bit of his bulk down.
Lose a bit of the bulk, sure. But yeah, I think I can see it. He just has to play like a more. He's Jon Stewart's more the straight man. He's not so much about the jokes, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, and
He's got a much more serious role.
Here's the thing. The Rock is very capable of playing a serious role. He's a very good actor. I think people kind of see his his outer image of being like a huge dude. He was in wrestling, has done some questionable movies. But he actually is a very good actor, and he could almost definitely play that role very well and give some legitimacy to Green Lantern that it desperately needs after the last.
It'd be a lot like his character in Fast and Furious, but like not quite so badass, you know, like not quite so thuggish.
Yeah,
but like very military, you know.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Fast and Furious is already kind of a comic book movie anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Jon Stewart's a military man, right? Architect.
Mm-hmm.
We know that he can play the military man. The architect part might be a little bit harder, you know, harder to buy, but lose some of the bulk, lean down a little bit, and he would make a good Jon Stewart.
Yeah, I'm in support of that.
I don't know necessarily if it's true, but I mean, it's almost like it's pretty damning. It's so weird to just throw that in there for no reason, unless you're, you know, I don't know.
Maybe it's an inside joke. Maybe he and his trainer were talking about it, and his trainer's a big fan of Superman.
Oh, maybe. I didn't think about it that way. I just really want a new Green Lantern movie. That's good.
See, the thing people forget is like they have a Twitter account. It's still his personal account. Like he can still, you know.
Yeah, I know.
It's not always announcing something.
No, I know, but like,
mind you, that's what Twitter is by definition.
No, he's on Instagram, but still, it's the same thing. Well. Same thing.
Same fucking garbage.
Relax.
Yeah.
No need to get crazy here. All right, relax. Okay, so we were talking about Lex Luthor.
But follow us on Twitter for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. So we were talking about Lex Luthor. Jesse Eisenberg obviously cast. So here are the actors that were up for, quote unquote, up for the role before he was cast. So Tom Hanks and Bryan Cranston were considered, but neither were actually approached, which is weird to even mention that. But could you see Tom Hanks as
Tom Hanks is kind of tough. He's always a nice guy.
I know. Has he ever played a villain? I don't think he has. He must have. Like
I'm sure
he's
he
been
has
around for a long time, but like he's not something. That's not his role, you know. He's a good actor. He's a great actor.
Yeah, he's
one of my favorites. But
Cranston could have done it though.
He was a fan favorite for that one.
But yeah.
And then
it's not just because he was bald and Breaking Bad. Like he's a great actor as well, and he can play like an intellectual and intimidating role. You know,
people always just went towards the bald people. Like people really wanted Mark Strong again to play Lex Luthor, but like he already did a really great job as Sinestro. And I really hope if they do another Green Lantern movie that he's back as Sinestro. By the way, because I think he was probably one of the best things of that movie, to be honest. And Mark Strong is one of my favorite actors.
Before we start talking about that other thing, if they are doing another Green Lantern movie with Jon Stewart, do you think that they wouldn't have Sinestro as the main villain, though? I don't think. Would you?
If you're doing a standalone Green Lantern movie?
With Jon Stewart.
Well, what else are you going to say? I mean, I think you need to establish that there's other cores at some point.
Yeah, no, but I'd like go like Red Lanterns or something like that.
You start with... yeah, maybe. But I think you have such a great... I guess
Sinestro as a villain it's so much about him and Hal though. It's their relationship. You can't just throw a different Green Lantern in there and expect it to be the same, you know? Unless they kind of like mini retcon it and have him train Jon Stewart, but then it's the same story as the other one, you know?
Yeah. I guess I see what you're saying, and I think Jeremy would definitely agree with you that you wouldn't want to see like a Sinestro Corps War movie without Hal Jordan, you know? So I think it's more likely that we'll just see Green Lantern in a Justice League movie as Green Lantern on Earth. And then if they do another one, then you can start talking about how you're going to do that and how you're going to do a War of Light and all that
makes sense,
stuff.
Yeah.
But
they have to make sure that if that's the case, then they have to make sure that they mention well, Hal Jordan in some way, so that people don't get confused and think
Well,
this
you
is
just make
only
it
Green Lantern.
like an offhand comment, like, isn't there
Yeah,
another
exactly.
human one? Like, isn't there someone else? Like,
Yeah,
like
no, like they'll say something and he'll be like, "No, that was the other guy," or
yeah.
something like that.
Okay, so there was the last guy who was considered for Lex Luthor was Adam Driver. So he was originally rumored for Nightwing. Remember when we talked about that? But he couldn't do it because he had like conflict of some kind. So like, so he was
The dude from
something else.
Girls.
Yeah.
Okay, I know. Never mind, I was gonna look it up.
So he was, yeah. So maybe that casting rumor was off. Maybe he was originally considered for Luthor, and that got telephoned. But either way, we have Eisenberg, so we'll have to leave with that one for now.
I'm fine with. I'm not fine with it, but I'm not.
Okay, well, how about this? Okay, so a rumor out of Latino Review, and they're usually pretty good with this stuff, is that the script calls for Lex to be heavily tattooed, as we're talking like, I think they mentioned specifically a Metropolis skyline, like sleeve down his right arm, and a self-made millionaire at 18. On top of that, he will apparently have street smarts, quote unquote, and who was in a gang and was in a gang at 14 and became boss within a year. So keep that in mind with Jesse Eisenberg playing that person. Like that's a fine way of telling. That's a cool Lex Luthor, but like that's Jesse. Yeah. Like, can you see Jesse Eisenberg being in being in a gang, or B being the boss of one?
Well, I think that's the whole point, right? If you can't like imagine, forget about Jesse Eisenberg for a second, but imagine that character, what you just described. He wouldn't be physically imposing. He'd be the one that everybody always underestimates. He'd be the underdog that comes from behind,
It's true.
So Jesse Eisenberg not looking intimidating kind of works for that role if that's what they're going for.
Yeah, no, okay, sure. Okay, I'm getting, when I hear that kind of stuff, it gets me a little worried.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, now this part is what I really like. So Lex, this whole thing about he being a self-made man, he worked really hard to get off the streets, become a millionaire, whatever, blah. He's still young, so he resents Bruce Wayne and Superman because he thinks that they neither of them had to work for anything in their life. Like Superman's just powerful because he's born on another planet or whatever. Yeah. Like, great, and everyone loves him. He didn't have to do anything. And then Bruce Wayne, born with a silver spoon in his mouth. So I like that conflict. I think that could really be like a central part of the story and really work well. But the rest of it's kind of
We'll see.
Beware the Batman. So remember the Beware the Batman show got canceled, or maybe get canceled. We don't know. It's in the same kind of limbo that Young Justice and Green Lantern, the animated series, were in for a while. So its first season's season 1, part 1 is set to release on Blu-ray today, and includes 2 episodes that haven't been shown on television yet. We don't even know if the show's coming back. We got this. It just feels like it just doesn't feel right to having this Blu-ray come out. It just like, if you're canceling it, don't even bother. Just stop it. Like, why would you even release it? Some kid comes in, wants to buy this show, thinks it's cool, then like wants to watch the rest. It's not even gonna be around. Like, you're just gonna break some little kid's heart,
Kids gotta grow up.
I don't want them to grow up in a world where the shows can get just canceled willy-nilly like that. Not that it was that great of a show. I think it was really coming in like to its own as a Batman show, and I was really starting to enjoy it more. But it wasn't like groundbreaking. It wasn't Batman the animated series, but to get canceled before its first season's even done is just makes me want to like go to the Cartoon Network office and just like start vandalizing things. Just writing like bring back Young Justice. No, because then that's just giving them money. I want them to understand that what they did is doesn't make any, like, it doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe it might make sense to them, but it doesn't make sense to the people who are, there's a large group of people who love those shows. And
I think, unfortunately, though, like those people, yourself, even myself, in terms of like Young Justice and stuff like that, we're not their target demographic.
Then why did you even make the show? That if you made the show and when they made Young Justice, it was not aimed for the
Young Justice was a bit more mature,
10s, right? So if it is more mature, then if you're canceling it for those reasons, you can't. It's not justifiable. Like, to me, like
they probably still wanted to move merchandise out of that demographic, though.
Sure, but then push the merchandise. Like, kids will buy merchandise anyway. Just make those toys for them. Just maybe not Young Justice toys. You know, like there's toys out there. Kids want to have toys. If there's toys that are aimed at that age range that you sold in commercials during other programs that are aimed at that age range, you'll get them. You don't have to create a show just to sell toys. It's backwards.
Yeah, it is.
Create a show,
I don't know,
make
that's
it
their whole
popular, and
business
then
model,
sell
man.
toys. I'm saying they've got it backwards.
Yeah, it's messed up.
So I was talking about another show, DC show that's really busy casting. So Gotham has cast Ben McKenzie from Southland as a young Jim Gordon. They're obviously looking for a young Bruce Wayne right now, I guess in the age 10-ish range. I'm not sure. They've also cast Donald Logue from Sons of Anarchy as Harvey Bullock, Sean Pertwee as from Equilibrium as Alfred, and Robin Lord Taylor from Walking Dead as Oswald Cobblepot.
Ben McKenzie? Is that what you said?
Who do you?
Benjamin McKenzie?
What do you look
for Gordon?
For Gordon?
Yeah, that's the
Ben
dude from the OC, the main dude from the OC who did the voice in the animated Batman in the animated one of year one.
Oh, really?
Right? Didn't he?
Ben McKenzie. I don't. Why don't you just do his?
Yeah,
IMDb?
yeah, he is. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. I don't know. So
The OC is Jim Gordon. I don't know about that, but whatever.
Well, he's young. He's a young Jim Gordon. It's weird that it's a Fox, so it's these castings remind me a lot of like what CW does with their casting. Although they've been a lot better with it.
Well, I
lately.
think that's obviously what they're trying to compete with, right? Like,
But why are you competing with your own brand?
well, you still make your own show.
Yeah, but why would
If you know that it
with your own
works for
brand?
them, why not?
Are you gonna put it on the same night as? Are you gonna put it on the same night as Arrow at the same time?
No, there won't be direct competition like that, but there's still inter-competition.
I think you're trying to get a similar crowd, like demographic, but I don't know. I'll watch it. I'll give it a chance for sure. I mean, a Batman show, yeah, absolutely. So, and I think that and Snyder has finally admitted that The Dark Knight Returns is an influence on Batman versus Superman, surprising no one. So, I don't even know. I put it in there because he is like people made a big deal out of it, but like it seemed obvious to me from the very beginning that this was the case. He's just finally admitted that he's used the book itself as an influence. Okay, so I think we're into the final stretch here. Sony, Seth Gordon, King of Kong, Horrible Bosses. He's the director. He's up for the directing job of the Uncharted movie. If hired, obviously the next step would be finding a Nathan Drake. But what did you think of? Have you seen King of Kong?
No.
Have you seen?
Oh, the documentary.
I think it's the documentary about King about.
I tried watching it once, like
Donkey
a
Kong.
long time ago, and I didn't make it through the whole
Okay,
thing.
fair enough. I've heard really good things about it. And Horrible Bosses, I think we both think it's hilarious, right? That's a very funny movie. Anyway, I don't know how much he obviously is a fan of video games, considering he did the King of Kong movie, right? He's not completely inept as a director because Horrible Bosses worked out fairly well. So, also fairly rude of me to say inept. Like, he made 2 good movies. Like, why do I have to... Anyway, I think he could do a good job with Uncharted. The story essentially writes itself, so...
Well, yeah, no, it's important to get good writers to adapt it, but I think they're gonna just do the story from the first game.
Not necessarily. I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, I'd be surprised if they did. They probably will.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so switch it up a bit. So you need to put some good writers on it, but yeah, director's a big part of it.
Yeah, I just want to see the movie get made.
Obviously, it'll be the new generation's Indiana Jones. You know, there's nothing there that should. There's no reason for it not to work. It's a great combination of action, comedy, and intrigue,
and romance.
A little bit of like a dollop of romance on top.
Yeah, you need a little bit of romance in there.
Yeah,
get the ladies involved. Dear Sony, my girlfriend won't let me. How does it go with the whole Uncharted 2 commercial?
Just my girlfriend thinks Uncharted 2 is a movie.
I think that's probably one of the best commercials that they've done. To be honest, that whole Sony thing, and then the whole Kevin Butler. They were on a roll there for really great advertising for a while. and obviously, and speaking of really great advertising and great marketing, PS4 has sold $5.3 million, and it hasn't or $5.3 million, 5.3 million units, and it hasn't even launched in Japan yet. They forecast selling 5 million by the end of their, I think, this fiscal year for them. And they're so pushing them ahead of schedule. And the last report out of the end of last year, so end of 2013, was that 3 million Xbox Ones had been sold to consumers, and that 3.9 had been shipped to retailers. So obviously that number is probably higher now, but I don't think it's probably not quite very close. It's probably not still very close to 5.3 million. So good job with the PS4 is pretty much kicking the Xbox One's ass right now. But that could change, obviously. There's a lot of, like, the whole, like I said, what's it called? Titanfall is probably going to bring in a few...
There's a lot of hype behind that game.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty much Infinity Ward. The people find the original Call of Duty, moving over, making their own game, coming out from EA, which has millions of dollars in marketing behind it, so... I mean, that'll probably push a few consoles. Nintendo. So they completed a $9.5 million share, or 9.5 million shares buyback from the founding Yamauchi family. Anyway, the family that founded Nintendo years and years and years ago. So they report that's close to about 12,000 yen. I'm not sure what that means.
It means nothing to me.
Anyway, I think it's probably more than that, because 12,000 doesn't sound like very much. Anyway, because it must be 12 million yen? I don't know. How many yen is a dollar?
I don't know, man.
Whatever. Anyway, so this, obviously that number is wrong. It's a lot of yen. I demand 1 billion trillion yen. So anyway, so this gives them the freedom to complete some of their mergers and acquisitions that they were talking about.
Definitely like 12 million, because 12,000 yen is 120 American dollars.
Yes.
So 12 million yen is 117,000.
It's probably more than that still, even.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that Nintendo stock is probably a little bit more than a dollar a share. Sure. Anyway, so in the end of their at their whole end of the fiscal year or last quarter, they did that whole thing what they talked about the Wii U sale forecast and all that kind of stuff. Yep. They talked about that. So at the same time, they talked about shifting the company's focus in the meantime, and maybe doing some mergers and acquisitions, so buying companies. Doing this share buyback allows them the freedom to make those decisions more easily and more freely. So I wouldn't be surprised if you hear Nintendo buying up a couple companies in the next even few months, because they've probably been working on it for a while. I don't know who they would buy. It's because probably Japanese companies is more likely, but so it's tough to say. But I'm excited to see where Nintendo goes in the future. Obviously we're excited to see what they do to try to turn around the Wii U. So speaking of the Wii U, and the only game that I care about, Super Smash Brothers has a new member, a new character, Little Mac from Punch-Out. Was it originally called Mike Tyson's Punch-Out? That's right, the first version.
No, I think the original is just Punch-Out, and then there was a Mike Tyson.
Oh, okay. So Little Mac, obviously the tiny green shoe.
Yeah, because the boss in the first one was the hippo guy, King Hippo.
Are you sure about that?
Pretty sure about that.
Why don't you Google that one? So anyway, it looks pretty cool. He's pretty quick. His up B though, pretty shitty. It's very much like Ike's, which although Ike did have some horizontal movement in his up B, his is very much straight vertical. No, Luigi's maybe a little bit more accurate like that. Mm-hmm. So it's just very straight up. It doesn't go very high. So if you do get knocked off, you're likely to probably not get back at all. So he has looked really strong. He's got this weird meter that builds up over time. I'm not sure. It's not clear how. But when it reaches the top, you can do a super punch, and in the trailer it showed him knocking off like 3 characters at once that were at like 12 and 10 and 9% in like one hit. So it'll be interesting to see how that works, like how that thing rolls up, because that's extremely powerful if that's the case, right?
Pretty sure in the games you have a little bar that you can do that uppercut, and then as you get hit or as you dodge,
I think it was as you like
it gradually
as you don't get hit and land punches, it builds. So either way,
I looked it up. Punch Out's the first. Mike Tyson's Punch Out is the 4th.
Oh really?
Yeah, there was a Super Punch Out, and then there was a spin-off called Arm Wrestling.
Mike Tyson's arm wrestling. Guys, I don't know if I can do this arm wrestling. So here, the Virtual Console, which is people love it. If I had a 3DS, or I would probably be buying lots of retro games all the time. Hasn't had Game Boy Advance games for whatever stupid reason, but they are coming out with Game Boy Advance games, and the first 3 are actually pretty solid, like really good games. So Metroid Fusion, one of my favorite Metroid games, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, and Super Mario Advance 3 Yoshi's Island. All 3 great,
solid, yeah,
great Game Boy Advance games. Did you have a GBA back in the day?
I have never owned a handheld system.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was trying to think back. I was like, I don't think you've ever had a handheld, which is weird because, like, you always had like so many like video games, like, different systems.
It's not my style. I don't know. I've never really even liked playing like the 3DS or any of them. DS.
So many great games on the handhelds though, man. You're missing out. All right, so this is the final rundown of stuff here. Well, we'll go through pretty quick. Star Wars and Marvel, Disney Infinity games are in development. This news comes after Disney Interactive gives word that they're laying off hundreds of employees, which is odd. EA, jump in if you have if you want to say about anything, by the way. EA to release a standalone FIFA World Cup 2014 game, only for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. All I can say is that it just sounds like a cash-in.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there's already a FIFA game out. Konami has 14 games planned for release by 2015, and then another 14 for the next fiscal year. They're doing a lot of digital mobile games right now, but as far as their console stuff, the only thing that's successful is Pro Evo Soccer, Castlevania, and Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid 5, obviously out for PlayStation 4. Doesn't have a release date, but at some point over the next couple of years, it's supposed to come out with Donald Sutherland. No, who's the Kiefer Sutherland as the voice of Snake.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. That seems like a lot of games, and I haven't really liked Castlevania, and I don't play Pro Evo Soccer. And if I was gonna play a soccer game, it'd be FIFA. So. Yeah, I don't know. Konami is a weird company, so we'll see. We'll watch what those games are.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if
let them do it. Yeah.
Like, what other games did Konami? They have a fighting game that's a pretty big one, right? Like one of the like Street Fighter. Or, it's not Street Fighter.
I want to say Virtua Fighter, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Or Dead or Alive.
Yeah, I don't. Either way, I know they have a fighting game out in that genre somewhere. So maybe we'll see another one of those or a couple of those for the next gen consoles. And does that and it's not clear if that means like if they have one game and if it's coming out for 3 platforms, if that counts as 3, or because again 14 sounds like how many publishers can put out 14 games, like except for like EA and Ubisoft and in 1 year. And even Ubisoft doesn't put out that many games in a year, I don't think. That's more than one game a month. So, the female version of Expendables, called the Expendabelles, has a director. And what's his name? What is that? Robert Luketic. He directed Paranoia. Anyways, I'll find the synopsis here if I can, super quick. It's as ridiculous as it sounds. Here it is. When America's Navy SEALs are wiped out trying to penetrate the island lair of a deadly despot who has captured one of the world's top nuclear scientists, it becomes clear that there is no such thing as the right man for the job, and that this mission is so impossible that only women can handle it. The only way in, some of the world's deadliest female operatives must pose as, here's the kicker, high-class call girls shipped in by private plane to satisfy a dictator.
Of course.
A dictator. Wow. Instead, save the scientist and the day. It would only been better if it said save the scientist and the world.
Good God.
Right?
Well, gender's saved. That's, yeah.
That's, oh my God. Either way, does that not sound like the best thing you ever, like...
Yeah.
So we got Meryl Streep, Cameron Diaz, and Mila Djokovic have been rumored to be a part of it.
Meryl Streep? Are you kidding me?
I don't know, man.
Oh,
also, would you fall for Meryl Streep as a high class call girl?
Not this day and age.
No, exactly. Unless she was like the mistress.
Probably exactly.
So Titanfall for the Xbox 360 has been delayed. Whatever there. The 360, the Xbox One version is supposed to be on schedule. Kiefer Sutherland talking about MGS5 was like in awe of how like motion capture technology works. He thought it was the coolest thing. And he was like, man, this is how they're gonna make movies. Like, it's like we're over like halfway there. Like in like a couple of years, all movies are gonna be made like this. Like, I don't get. It's like,
I think so for sure.
Actually, I also have to kind of agree with that, because then you don't have to worry about about sets or anything like that. You can do anything. You can put the camera at any possible like camera angle. You can do any type of shot you want. Like,
go look up. There's a Star Wars tech demo. I don't even know what it's for. I think, but it looks ridiculous. And it's just like the facial motion capture along with the suits as well. Yeah, it's for video games. It's for a computer game though.
Was it for maybe the was it called 1313 that was canceled?
Yeah. That's it.
I don't even want to look at it. It just makes you upset.
No, but the tech demo, like, it looks nuts. Yeah. But you know that they're still using that technology, and yeah, you could definitely make movies with that.
Yeah, I think as computer technology gets better and better, I think it's like, it's so weird, because then you'll move away from needing like camera operators to like people who can like only do special effects. You know, like everything will be special effects. So anyway, so the South Park Stick of Truth has gone gold. So that's the RPG South Park game that's been like perennially delayed. But it's finally gone gold, which means it's finally done, which means it's finally going to come out probably on schedule this time, quote unquote on schedule. And like everyone who's seen it and played it says it's hilarious in every like conceivable way, and I want to play it really, really, really bad.
Yeah, everything we saw about it looked hilarious. We both love South Park already.
It looks like it's exactly out of the show. It just looks like like the show, a video game. You know, like remember there was like the South Park racing game, like karting game. Remember that?
Yeah.
It's like there've been crappy South Park games, but this one looks like what South Park video games should have always been. What else? So Sonic is getting a new animated series called Sonic Boom, and there's a game by the same name coming out alongside it. There's a trailer for it. Looks like a Sonic thing. Sonic's been silly for so long. I can't deal with it anymore.
Chips, man.
What else we got? Will Smith won't be back for Independence Day 2. Whatever. I don't really want to see an Independence Day 2.
What are you talking about?
Why? He won't be back for Independence Day.
Oh, he won't be back. Oh,
yeah. Okay. Do you really like? First of all, what in that movie says I need a sequel?
You don't need it, but that movie is just a fun popcorn movie. That's not a movie that has a lot like of depth, so it's just fun to have another one.
Yes, yeah. And wait, Naughty Dog is considering a Last of Us 2, but they're also considering a new IP. So how are you going to take with that with what you will? So like the director of like the second team, the one that did Uncharted 2 and The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm. The better team.
Yeah, arguably the better team. I mean, the other one's only done one game, and that one was pretty good too. So, I mean, you didn't like Uncharted 3 as much as 2. I think we both are kind of in that same camp. I think we both like 2 a little bit more. Not that either were bad, right? So, yeah. So he said like, yeah, we're taking a break. We've been tossing around ideas, some for sequels, some are as new IPs. So I mean, it could go anywhere from here, is what he said. So, I would be very, very surprised if there's not a sequel to Last of Us, which sold way better than they thought it was going to, and is a critical, like a critical success at like every level, as well as a commercial success. So,
And like the story just it doesn't really
it
you
doesn't
don't
have to be
really have any
direct
answers.
sequel.
Like there's so much room for extra. Yeah, exactly. There's so much room in that world for just other people,
Yeah,
other stories
there's
on
like
the other side of the planet. You know.
yeah, you could be from anywhere. Like who maybe we don't even know. Like you have no idea what's going on in Europe or Asia or any of those places. Maybe nothing. You know, like maybe it's just contained. Maybe it's all like you have no way. There's no way to know. You know, I mean, it's unlikely that that's the case, but so Sledgehammer Games is working on the next Call of Duty, which means that there is now 3 studios working on Call of Duty games at all times. So Sledgehammer, what's the Infinity Ward, and what's the other one? They just did Ghosts.
Don't care.
Anyway, the
Activision.
no, yeah, yes, Activision's the publisher.
What's the fucking difference? I don't know that shit, man.
Yeah, so they all have different. There's different.
I don't
teams.
pay attention to
There's
that
different teams, different developers, and the publisher Activision puts out the game. They're all working off anyway. I'm kind of getting sick of Call of Duty stuff, so enough is enough in my opinion there. Oh, that's a little harsh. Keep making Call of Duty games, but it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be twice a year every year, like, which isn't this not also the case. Exaggerating again. It's once a year, and then now they're gonna be on 3-year development cycles, which makes maybe the games will be better for it. So
yeah, because they're spreading it out. So if they're each working on one for 2 years or for 3 years rather,
yeah,
maybe they put a little bit more into the games,
which would be nice. Escape from New York, the old I think an 80s movie, right?
Yeah.
Is getting a remake at some point, and the director, I think. Again, this is like going off memory here of what the actual story said, but compared it to Arkham City, saying how in the original Escape from New York, it was set in this New York that was a prison, like already a prison, been a prison for a long time, and never really explored how or why New York was a prison. This remake will explore like the origins of why New York became a giant walled prison, you know.
Cool.
So either way, that's anything that's like anything that's like Arkham City's game is good with me. And what else do we have? Oh, I think that's pretty much that finishes it actually. Other than the fact that I watched Lego Movie yesterday, as well as Ender's Game when I got home. So let me just say a couple things about Lego Movie. I loved it. I think it's funny on like a lot of levels. If you are a parent, take your kids will love it. You'll love it. If you are just a fan of Legos, I think it captures the feeling of what makes playing with Lego so great, the imagination and the adventure of just creating and telling your own story of being a kid and what that means. It has a really great message. There's a couple really great messages as far as, you know, conformity versus creativity and working as a team and using how everyone's special in their own way, and like what the difference between like how your age affects your ability to be creative and all that kind of stuff is all touched on in different really great ways. Batman is great in it. Like he plays a large role in the film, and like is funny on like a lot of levels. Like there's a couple lines where he's like building something out of Lego, and he's like, yeah, anyone have any black? I need all the black pieces. I only work in black and sometimes really, really dark gray. And he has like a song. He's like, oh, I made this song. And then like he's like, oh yeah, he's an artist. And he's like darkness, no parents, darkness. And it just goes on listing like things that are dark. It's like blacked out windows. And it's like, the visuals of it are great. Like it looks like if you put a camera down to like Legos that were moving around and walking on their own, that would, and it's not like stop motion. Like it doesn't have that feel to it. Like a lot of Lego things have been. it looks like living Legos, and they have, and it's one of the most visually interesting movies I've seen in a long time. A lot of stuff going on, but that's not a bad thing. It's like really good. If you've seen it once, go see it again. Like I want to go see it again. So I still want to see RoboCop as well at some point. Anyway, and Ender's Game. Dan, have you seen Ender's Game?
No.
Have you read the book?
No.
Okay. Do you know or what like? Here's the thing. I'm not really up to speed as far as what Orson Scott Card's whole deal is. I know he's kind of crazy now. I think he's kind of like racist and like anti-Semitic, or like he just like hates everything, kind of. I think.
Okay.
Anyway, he like hates gays, and anyway, people really didn't were questioning whether this movie should be made because they don't want to support Orson Scott Card's work because he's such a terrible person now for some reason. I'd have to look up exactly what makes him a terrible person exactly. I kind of know vaguely, so I don't want to get into it. He might not be anti-Semitic at all, but I'm pretty sure he hates gays. The movie itself has Harrison Ford, and in it, it's set in space a lot of the time. And it's about like training kids to, I guess, to be the commanders of a battlefield, like a space battlefield, because
battle space.
Yeah. Anyway, the whole thing is that they use kids because they're more easily able to assimilate and adapt to change, than an adult is. It's never really like. To me, it's still kind of a weird, this whole weird thing. Ben Kingsley's in it as well. It kind of lacks a little bit of heart. It doesn't have, it's kind of cold in a lot of places, but I think to a certain degree that's kind of what they're going for. But I don't think it benefits the movie in any really great way. There's a cool twist at the end that I think is actually done fairly well. You can kind of see it coming though. I think. I mean, maybe not. I mean, obviously, if you read the book, you know what's going to happen. I haven't. No one spoiled it for me because it had been so long since it had come out. I did kind of see it coming, the whole twist at the end, and even saying that there's a twist at the end kind of gives it away because it's like what else would it be? But I'm not gonna get it. Like, you should still watch it. It's not a terrible movie by any means.
It sounds like a cool concept. I'd like to find the book maybe.
Yeah, I like it talks about this alien species that comes and attacks Earth. They're a lot like ants. And they're looking for water, and then they kind of fight them off, but at great cost. So that the rest of these 25 years or whatever, they're training these kids and preparing for their return. And it kind of touches on this whole on different themes of war and combat. It's what I think is really cool. They did really well is. So these kids are 15, 16 years old. There is a girl in the movie, but it's more of like a platonic friendship than it is ever a relationship, and they never kiss or anything. I think it would be so easy to just change that from the book and be like, they're going to be dating in the because that's what we do for movies, right? But they didn't do that, and I think it's much more realistic interpretation of how that would be because the setting that these kids are in, that would never really work. But go watch it. Some of the performances are really great. I think we haven't seen Harrison Ford care about what he's doing on screen for a long time. So he actually seems to put in some effort into this performance, which is nice to see. Seeing Harrison Ford in space is always a good thing. And I think. The world itself is interesting world. I think they could have explored it more. And go watch it. It's fun.
Cool.
But again, not the best. I've seen better sci-fi. So I think that wraps it up.
Actually, we haven't talked about True Detective at all.
Oh yeah,
you haven't watched it.
I haven't watched it, but you've been liking it.
Oh my! I'm obsessed with this show. It's a really cool concept. It's an anthology format, so there's going to be an entirely new cast and every season.
So it's kind of like what they're doing with American Horror Story.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah. So this one is Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey are both phenomenal actors in this show, which I never really like. Woody Harrelson's always awesome. Matthew McConaughey I never kind of Never really got into his stuff so much, but now this, and then he's in that the movie coming up, the Chris Nolan movie,
Yeah.
Interstellar.
And also
I'm
that
super
and
excited for that.
that is and his role in
Dallas Buyers Club.
he's been great. Well, he's also in Wolf of Wall Street. He has a small role
Yeah.
in that, and he's really good. So,
Anyways, though, this show is nuts. It's the best thing right now because Breaking Bad's done, The Wire's been done for a while, and Game of Thrones isn't on right now. It's the best thing on TV.
oh, you know what? I forgot to talk about. We forgot to talk about the Game of Thrones trailer. You know what?
We did that last. I think we did that.
We did no. There's a new trailer and there's a 15-minute promo for the new season that came out.
I'm gonna look that up right away. We'll talk about it next time.
So we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll do our own. Maybe we do another podcast on Game of Thrones. So maybe if you haven't subscribed to that, go subscribe to that. And we might put that out on.
We'll do a preview one before you.
Yeah, because there's some interesting stuff in that for sure. I'm very excited. Game of Thrones season 3 just came out on Blu-ray. Haven't picked it up yet, but when I do, I'll give a quick review on like the special features and all that kind of stuff, which I usually really enjoy from that stuff. So yeah, that covers pretty much everything, and we're running in about like an hour, just over an hour, just short of an hour and a half. Our usual length, which is good.
Yeah.
Make sure again check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Twitter at Tower Babblecast. Our website's really the place you wanna find all of our main stuff though. www.towerbabblepodcast.com, towerofbabblepodcast.com. BABBLE, not BABEL. That's the other way. That's the biblical way. We're not doing it the biblical way. Yeah. All right. So we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.